Over 10% of Maryland homes are hiding 5 critical issues that could drain your bank account. And most buyers have no idea they're walking into a money pit. That's not a number I'm throwing around to scare you. It's actually a reality that many home buyers are facing today, especially when they rush into the purchasing without understanding the risk associated with those properties. That's why you should never buy these types of homes in Maryland. Hey guys, I'm Nick Waldner, a real estate agent based here in Maryland, 21 years of experience, and I understand the market. With the market pushing buyers to waive inspections, make quick decisions, too many people are missing critical warning signs. Today, I'm gonna walk you through the 6 most problematic type of homes that you need to just avoid if you're buying in this area. And pay close attention because these issues could hurt your investment and your family's financial security. So let's start off with the first one. The number one risk I see is in pre-1930s homes. They're here in Maryland, you're gonna find them all over, and here's what most buyers don't realize. 10.1% of Maryland homes were built before 1940. And they're hiding some critical issues that could drain your bank account. First, you have outdated electrical systems. I'm talking about knob and tube wiring that was standard when the homes were built, but now that wiring lacks a ground conductor and degrades over time. You're looking at anywhere from fire to shock hazards that insurance companies don't want to cover. The second issue is asbestos. Maryland's COMAR 26.11.21 regulations are strict here, and renovations or demolishing that disturbs any of that asbestos requires that MDE notification and a licensed abatement contractors. That means money. Now, the professional remediators can cost thousands before you even start renovations. Third, older homes often have unsafe features. For example, those steep steps that don't meet the current building codes. And we're talking about major structural modifications if you want to bring them up to code. Fourth, you have to worry about the foundation. These homes have been settling for nearly a century. Foundation repairs in Maryland can range from $2,500 for the minor cracks and ceiling to $25 or $30 for extensive underpinning. And foundation problems don't get better over time. They need to be fixed right away. Fifth, the high maintenance costs that compound over time. Honestly, one problem triggers another. Electrical issues lead to insurance problem, foundation and settlement cracks lead to moisture coming in the basement, outdated plumbing starts leaking, and then you have to deal with the damages, and so on and so on. I'll talk more about issues like this in a moment, and I'll also show you which warning signs you need to notice so that you avoid this. Now, I'm not saying every pre-1930s house is a disaster waiting to happen, but you need to go in with your eyes wide open and a substantial repair budget set aside. At least with older homes, their age gives you fair warning to dig a little deeper. But our next property type can look perfect on the surface while hiding risks that sellers aren't even required to tell you about. Number 2, these are the homes that are in flood zones. This one's tricky in Maryland because our flood disclosure laws received a D grade from the National Consumer Protection Groups. What does that mean? Basically, sellers don't have to tell you about past flooding, and that insurance bill could exceed $1,200 a year in some parts of the state. The state participates in FEMA's National Flood Insurance Program with updated maps available on marylandfloodmaps.net. But here's where it gets expensive. Properties in special flood hazard areas, which are areas with 1% annual chance of flooding, require mandatory flood insurance. And the average flood insurance premium statewide are $742 per year, but some exceed $1,200 in rural Eastern Shore counties. Some counties, like Worcester, are reaching $1,130 under FEMA's new risk rating 2.0 system. You need to know what's going on in those areas before you get hit with a major bill. Thing is, Maryland imposes no mandatory flood damage disclosure. Sellers must tell you if a property is in a flood zone, but they're not required to reveal past flooding history, damage amounts, or insurance claim. You could be buying a home that's flooded multiple times and never even know it. Just like the flip properties we'll talk about soon, these issues could be hidden on purpose. The Eastern Shore is particularly vulnerable, and water damage isn't the only environmental threat hiding in plain sight. Some Maryland neighborhoods sit on contaminated ground that it could affect your family's health and your property value for decades. But before we talk about that, let me tell you something. My team is the #1 Keller Williams team in the entire Maryland and DC region for a reason. Our experts cover every single county. We've got almost 2,200 five-star reviews on Google backing up what we do. So if you want to access the kind of market insights that help you make smart property decisions, hit the subscribe button right now, because the information I share could save you tens of thousands of dollars on your next home purchase. So our number 3 is properties near EPA Superfund sites. Maryland contains multiple active sites with persistent groundwater contamination. You need to check the EPA websites before you make any offer, and I'll tell you exactly how to do that. Properties within 1 mile of active sites like Bear Creek in Baltimore County or the 68th Street dump face potential soil and water contamination. As a buyer, you want to be aware of this. Before October 1st, 2024, Maryland law didn't mandate Superfund proximity disclosure. However, Real Property Section 10714 now requires sellers to provide an addendum if a property is within 1 mile of an NPL site. Many sellers and even some agents might not be aware of this recent change. Luckily, the EPA has a tool called Search Superfund Sites Where You Live that you can use before making any offers. And when you're working with someone on my team, we will let you know before we even go into a property that it's located in those areas. You can also go to the EPA website, type in the property address, and it'll show Superfund sites within a 1 mile radius so that you don't choose a home in a tough area. There are more online resources for other issues and red flags, and I'll cover those in a minute, so stick around. While environmental hazards are often invisible during a typical showing, our next property type advertises itself as perfect, but hides some serious defects behind fresh paint and new fixtures. Number 4, and this might not surprise you, are homes flipped by investors or LLCs. Plenty of Maryland buyer complaints cite missing permits, electrical hazards, and flipped homes. Usually the cosmetic upgrades mask the corner cutting practices done by these renovators. So you have visual problems like gaps in the countertops, uneven baseboards, or even paint that doesn't quite line up at the seams. These are just the telltale signs that if they skip the hard work there, what else did they skip? Many flippers aren't using licensed contractors, and many flippers didn't pull proper permits because permits cost time and money. In Maryland, contractors are required to be licensed through the Maryland Home Improvement Commission, but flip investors often use handymen or unlicensed workers to keep their costs down. Unpermitted structural modifications can require $5,000 to $20,000 in remediation work to bring them up to code. What's worse, the insurance company may deny claims related to that work. And we'll mention more insurance denials in a minute, but you've got resources for all of this. For instance, you can verify permit history through the county's permit portal. Prince George's County has an online system with a search by address, which makes it very simple. You can see what permits were pulled and what inspections were completed. Major renovations with no permit history is usually a red flag. So before purchasing any flipped property, request that the contractor gives you receipts and license number for all the renovations. A legitimate flipper will have all the documentation readily available. So I'm not telling you to avoid these completely, just make sure you're looking at the right ones that were done properly. If they can't provide it or they get defensive, it might be our indication to walk away. The Maryland Home Improvement Commission has a database of unlicensed contractors who have been caught doing unpermitted work. Often, the same contractors that flip investors use to keep their costs down are on that list. But even legitimate non-flip homes can hide ongoing costs that many buyers never calculate. Our next property type seems like a luxury upgrade, but it can become a financial drain that follows you every single month. Okay, our fifth one might be controversial, but hear me out. Homes with pools are number 5. I'll show you the data. First, they can require $2,500 to $15,000 in periodic resurfacing and an average of $1,200 a year in maintenance. This includes chemical balancing, equipment replacing, cleaning services, opening, closing, and the periodic resurfacing. So homeowners spend on average $1,200 a year just on basic pool upkeep. Pool resurfacing needs to happen every 10 to 15 years, depending on the surface type. This runs from $2,500 for some basic refinishing to over $15,000 for a complete overhaul with new tile and coping. Not only that, but pools can actually deter future buyers and complicate your insurance coverage. Some insurance companies charge higher premiums for properties with pool because of the liability concerns. And in turn, some buyers don't want the maintenance responsibility. I have had several buyers that have looked at great homes and said, you know, with young kids, I just don't want a pool. Or, this house is amazing, but I just don't want to be working on the pool every weekend. So just understand that pools, while sometimes are attractive to you as a buyer, could be a deterrent in the future. Another reason is that Maryland's got a shorter summer season compared to the southern states. You're paying year-round maintenance costs for something you can only use for about 4 months. What about heating your pool? Well, that can get really expensive, not only to maintain, but also to cover the cost during those colder months. Pool equipment like pumps and heaters and filtration systems are typically needed to be replaced every 8 to 12 years. Costs can easily exceed $3,000 to $5,000 when you're looking at quality equipment. When multiple systems fail around the same time, you could look at $10,000 in repair bills just to keep the pool functioning. And remember, while you're repairing the pool, you also have to worry about the house. How's the roof? How's the HVAC system? How's the hot water heater? Getting hit with all these surprises at once could be draining to your bank account. Okay, so our final property type seems to be attractive initially, but it becomes a financial trap when it's time to sell. Number 6. Don't buy the most expensive home in the neighborhood. Yes, it's a great house. It's got the size. You love it. But if you are the most expensive house in the neighborhood, you are capped in how much you can appreciate. When buyers are looking at homes, they want to be surrounded by other homes in a similar price range. Meaning, if I'm looking at an $800,000 house, I want my neighbors' homes to be priced anywhere from $750,000 to $900,000 or even $1 million. I don't want to buy $1 million home and be surrounded by $400,000 homes. So when you buy the most expensive house, you actually limit the amount of buyers who are willing to buy your house next because their neighbors aren't going to be what they're looking for in terms of value. This is especially true when you're looking at homes that are already priced at the top of a neighborhood's range. Another way to look at this is, let's think about kitchen remodels. Usually you get a return of 60 to 80% of what you spend at resale. This percentage decreases if the home is already priced above the neighborhood average. So what can you do? Research the neighborhoods, understand the price ceilings before you purchase. And that's what we do. We will pull all the comps and let you know what's selling in the area, what price range we think it falls between, and then we can compare this list price of the home we're looking at compared to the neighborhood average. Homes in the top 10% of their neighborhoods stay on the market longer and also sell for less than their original asking price. When you buy the priciest home on the block, you're hoping the neighborhood values will increase, so the rise makes your home purchase price worth it, but neighborhood appreciation happens gradually. If you need to sell quickly in the first few years, you're likely to take a loss. So there you have it. Avoid these 6 property types and it'll help you sidestep the most common and costly mistakes in Maryland real estate. Of course, there are exceptions to these, but it's usually best to stay on the safe side, right? I can help you spot the red flags before making an offer. Shoot me an email at hello@waldnerwintersteam.com and let's have a conversation about your goals, your needs, and your strategy of what to do to find that next house. My team and I would love for you to be our next satisfied client, and we want to make sure you're avoiding those costly mistakes. Let's find you and your family the perfect home instead. Before you click off, check my video about what real estate agents won't tell you about living in Maryland, because you got to know the good things and the challenges up front, right? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.